I've come a long way. I'm from Australia. Just curious if you guys have heard about the censorship debate that Australia's been having.
Yeah, it seems like it's much more pronounced in Australia.
Well, for example, we're not getting Mortal Kombat, which is, I know, it's
being able to grip a man's spine and retrieve it is a constitutional right.
But I was wondering if you guys had an opinion on the censorship of video games in other regions, and if you guys had ever actually experienced any censorship yourselves.
Man, it's hard to say, because censorship, yeah, it's hard to know, because people have different ideas about what constitutes, like, it's like, there's people disagreeing with things, and then there's like censorship, and then there's like, imagine like with the Dixie Chicks, right? So they made this CD, and then they said something on stage, and people didn't like it, so then they were destroying. So then, you know, their stuff was being put into bonfires and burned and stomped and stuff. That's mean, but it's not really censorship. I mean, you can still print the CD and sell it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the situation that you have there is much more specific, where the work is not even available. It isn't specific, you know, it isn't unavailable to a specific class of the citizenry. It's literally not available in your country. And we don't have that.
We haven't had that problem.
We don't have that yet. They're trying. But we don't have that yet. So it's hard. It's awfully hard for me to wrap my head around that idea. I think that there's probably a lot I don't know about Australia.
So, do you guys have an opinion on the fact that we don't get this sort of stuff, or?
I think it's unfortunate. I want to play it.
But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we don't think that the answer to bad art or what is considered socially unacceptable art is less art. We feel like the solution to almost any problem, and maybe this is just our artiness, we feel like the solution to almost any problem is more art. If you feel like there's a piece of art or a work that doesn't communicate your values, the onus is on you to create that work. And getting rid of that work doesn't create a situation where people don't want to pull out spines. I think we've been pulling out spines for a long time, or at any rate imagining we were doing it. And I don't think that's the solution. I don't think that actually solves the problem of offensive media.
I really hope that back home they hear you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
You didn't draw the watch yet.
Hello.
You can add me to the list of people who really loved Rain Slick Precipice.
Oh, the first two games? The chapter.
The written chapters.
Thank you so much.
I love the games too, but I wanted to point out the chapters.
I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate that. Like, it's one of those things where it's like if we do, it's very scary for me to work without Mike. Like, if it wasn't for Mike, I wouldn't have the impetus to create most of the work that I do. And part of it is that we have a good working relationship, and part of it is that if something is bad, I can blame it on him. You know, and I'm sure that he feels the same way. Like, we're both sort of indemnified from our creative excesses because we can always blame it on the other person. But with Precipice, there was no net, as they say in the circus. It was pure terror every time I wrote a sentence. So I really appreciate that.
It was worth it. I have two questions. First one, what was your process for writing it?
Oh man, in my mind, I was trying to create the admixture, the perfect admixture of Mark Twain and H.P. Lovecraft. So I wanted something that had an element of horror, of an overarching horror, and of a fundamentally unjust universe. But I wanted there to be a sense of humor about that structure. I wanted it to be inherently ridiculous so that you could still laugh at it, even though the themes were pretty dark. So I wanted to sort of walk that line in the middle there somewhere.
Oh, you succeeded.
Thank you.
And two, will it ever be compiled and possibly put into print for purchase at any point?
I think if I was going to print it, what I'd want to do, I'd want to add more stuff. I feel like those chapters are good, but if I was gonna do something like that, because you can read it right now and it's fun, and Erica made an awesome frame for it, and it looks very cool on the page, right?
Yes.
She killed it on that. But if I was going to make something, if I was going to print something like that and make you buy it, I would want to add a lot more stuff. But the first step, and I've already talked to Erica and Eric, Erica's the server guy. I'm going to do like a director's cut of it that includes extra chapters and also includes mouse-overs that answers of the questions that you have about certain passages.
Oh, that'd be great.
With, you know, spoiler type stuff and like where I set up certain punches in later episodes, like where the inkling of that starts. So that'll be the next thing. And as soon as I get back from here, I'm going to start writing those, and then maybe in a month or so, you'll start to see that updated version up.
Great, thank you very much.
No problem.
I suppose this more applies to the PC than the console crowd, but do you think we'll ever reach a point where we'll see kind of the death of game publishing companies? I mean, with the recent success of games like Minecraft and a lot of indie developers on Steam, do you think we'll ever reach that point, or do you think there'll always be a place for publishing companies?
I think that it depends on the scale of the product. I think that what's happened, and you're not wrong, what's happened is that indies have access to the world. I mean, that's real. No floppies, you know what I mean? Like, they have access to the planet in terms of selling that stuff and then through Steam, you know what I mean? But those games tend to be much smaller scale. Something like Black Ops, I mean, that's an eight-figure development cost. And when you're in that situation of publishing, somebody has to pay for that process. So I think that what's happened now is that we authentically have two tiers. I don't think that publishing is going to go away, but I think that there's an authentic space for indies.
Keep going, that's a really interesting point.
I'm having a bitchin' time here.
I'm glad.
This place is sweet. I just have one question. I'm sure you guys get it all the time.
Fire away.
What's the difference between jelly and jam?
Doesn't jam have seeds in it?
Here, do you know? Here, my wife will answer you.
Jam has chunks.
I thought it was I can't jelly my dick in your ass.
What is it? I don't know what that means.
I can't jelly my dick in your ass.
I can't jelly my dick.
Oh, but you can jam. I get it.
I don't think we have that on the West Coast. I think that we do something else with our
No, that's
dicks.
a good joke.
Yeah.
Two things, I guess. When you've got writer's block and Penny Arcade is over,
On a weekly basis.
Yeah, what happens after that? You just break for a couple hours, then you see something and you get an idea and you text Mike and you're like, oh my god, I just got this great idea.
Under the best circumstances, that's what happens. What often happens is that we take naps under our desks. I mean it. I roll up my coat and I just crawl under my desk in the place of shame where I deserve, and I think about what I did. That's what happens most of the time. Because we have to get it done. We have to make a script of some kind. It's getting progressively more yucky.
Also,
Yeah.
this is my first PAX.
Welcome.
Yes. So I'm not sure. Am I allowed to ask you to put things in the strip?
Oh yeah,
You
I
can
was gonna
certainly
say-
ask.
No. This is very much a part of Create a Strip panel culture. This is totally normal.
So I'm an emissary from a relatively new fandom on the internet, and it's about something that's generally considered kind of girly. So whenever it gets brought up, we get made fun of.
I can't wait to hear what this
I can't
is.
like this, and we really want to. It's really kind of depressing, and I just want to ask to make up for this. Can you put a pony in the script? Maybe the DS game.
A pony fandom?
Yes, well, My Little Pony.
I'm just trying to figure out the best place for this pony.
Well, Gabe could be playing My Little Sparkly Pony Adventure.
Just a little pony on the table?
Yeah!
Hi, I've been trying to get into
Hold on.
Alright. Thank you. I've been trying to get into D&D for about 2 years now.
Which D&D?
Any kind. I can't find anyone. I go to Rutgers, and I was hoping someone would say...
See? These are your people.
Alright.
Can you help him?
Does anyone want to play D&D? I've never played before. It goes to Rutgers.
Listen, can someone fix this problem for him in the tabletop room? Can this happen today? Okay, wait, listen. What you need to do is leave the microphone, wave your hands if you can run a game for him. You go over there, problem solved, love connection made. Welcome to PAX. As Isabella says, owned by peepishness. Go to this arm waver and go in peace.
Thank you. And the strip is really good.
Thank you. Alright, keep waving them. I love you so much. Oh, keep going. You gotta go. That's aerobic.
Hi guys, it's your second year here in Boston, and I hope you've enjoyed this city as
I
much
love
as
it.
the West Coast.
I don't know if it's weird. So Boston to me, like obviously physically it's much older. But Boston, the atmosphere of Boston feels similar to Seattle. I don't know, is that considered offensive out here?
Absolutely.
Like for me, it's just, I feel so at home right away, just from the temperature. Oh, nice. That's actually really good.
I have a picture.
Do you have any of these at home?
I have a picture
Okay.
of the one I have at home.
But my question was about Poker Night at the Inventory, which we're very grateful that you allowed Tycho to be a part of that game.
I did.
And
I talked to them, actually.
I wonder what your experience was with how much input you had on how Tycho should look, how he should move, how he should sound like, and just overall your experience of him playing with, you know, other major...
I thought that was really interesting. So they sent me a script, and anything that I felt did not feel like Tycho, and there's no style guide, you know, I don't know what that's supposed to be in repose. I don't know what that's supposed to be like 100% of the time, but I know when something is wrong. So when it comes up, I just went through the script, changed things that I thought were absolutely wrong, and tried to fix it, and then wrote new stuff where I thought it would be funny to put in. But as far as like the art and animations, like I think that we were curious what they would do. Because animating them, I mean, that's not something that we think about a lot. You know what I mean? Nice. I think we were just as curious as you were.
Hey, I'm drawn.
I actually suggested Chris Straub for Tycho's voice. I thought that he could have been very interesting in that. But I mean, he's also done a lot of work in the Blamimations, and so maybe that would be too much. I don't know. But I think he could have killed it.
Are you happy with the voice he had in the...
Yeah, I think it's neat, but I mean, I think that any time Tycho's voiced for a while, it will probably be somebody different. I mean, I think that there's so many humans, and it's hard to find the right one sometimes.
Thank you very much.
That's fine.
Hey, this is my first time at PAX.
Welcome aboard.
Glad to be here. Anyway, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was going, you know, the strip is funny, but I'm not seeing what the big deal is. And, you know...
That's a great question.
And yeah, it got me thinking about it, and I'm like going, what does make Penny Arcade different? And I realized you guys kind of came at an early point where gaming culture wasn't really discussed.
It wasn't considered a coherent thing, I don't think.
Right, you had magazines about previews and reviews.
About product.
Right, but the opinions were purely professional opinions. I'm not, but basically that was what struck me.
That's interesting.
There are very few other things at the time. I won't know the dates of like the early escapist issues
I guess that's right.
Old Man Murray, but
Yeah, it's about gamers instead of games.
Right, exactly. The idea of a
No,
gamer
that's right.
culture.
No, that's smart.
Yeah.
I'd never, yeah, again, we try not to think about it.
And that was earlier this couple months. I was working on a role-playing game, and I was thinking, I've got this, basically hand-created game that I'm going to give create a specialized copy for the, you two
Fun.
and the other people of Penny Arcade, and my friend is just like, don't do it, and it's like it's just not, basically that's not ready. It could look a lot better.
It needs more love.
Yeah. My question for you is, if you were having a hand-created RPG, what would you want? And this is tabletop, by the way, and to be absolutely clear.
My favorite, I think that probably my favorite tabletop combat system is Burning Wheel. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, vaguely.
I mean,
I'm familiar with it.
It won't be hard. I mean, it won't be hard to get a brisk education in the tabletop room, I'm sure. But basically it has a combat system that has a lot of surprises in it. It's a lot of double flips where people choose maneuvers that have relationships to each other. So there's almost like a board game table element right in the middle of this cool RPG. So I like surprises, basically.
Okay. Would you have any preferences for like thematics or settings or anything like that?
Oh man. Typically we grab a system and then make our own themes. For us, systems are just like the mechanisms, and then we like to tart them up. So.
Okay. That's about it.
Thank you. Send us a mail.
Hi guys.
Sir.
Okay. Actually, I have 3 questions. One of which is very brief, I promise. The first one I have is, I think most people in this room are familiar with the legend of how Robert came to work for you, with you guys.
Maybe.
I mean, you know how he just said,
How he appeared like a genie?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you go to a Chinese restaurant, he's like, I want to help you guys. I was just wondering, what was your reaction when this guy, who is a marketing guy, who you a marketing creature who you have never met before, comes to you say, I want to quit my job, work for you guys free for a period of time, and after that, you can ask me if I'm not doing my job. Like, what was your reaction?
Yes, please.
Well, I remember at that point we were in so much trouble, like with the book.
We didn't have our own book rights.
Yeah, we didn't have our book rights. There was like an active lawsuit going on.
We were running the site on donations, which was working, thank you, but that's not sustainable.
When you tell your wife that the internet is paying your rent, it's like they are incredibly long-suffering, and we owe them a lot, but that was probably unfair. As far as Robert goes, yeah, we knew that we needed help really bad. And in fact, you know what's funny is the first time we met him, because he just wanted to talk to us about advertising on Penny Arcade generally. And actually the first time he mailed us, we didn't mail him back, because he didn't include lunch. And then when he added the lunch portion, we were like, all right, let's go, lunchtime, let's make it happen. So we go and have lunch, and then as we were leaving, we're like, man, we need somebody like that. We need somebody who has their fucking head on, that can help us with this stuff, because we're gonna wreck it, and we don't even know how. Like we don't know how to get out of this. We were beginning to recognize that it's very Final Fantasy. Like there's a different skill set associated with each of these classes, and we can make the JPEGs, but we need help with the rest of this. You know what I mean? We need help creating a vessel for those JPEGs to float around on. So.
Yeah, I like the analogy used in that Wired interview from, I think, 4 years ago, where you said that Robert affixed you to the chariot and then rode you to victory, I guess.
Wait, he affixed us to the chariot because that's the difference, is that everyone else who had tried to manipulate us before, it was very short term. They were trying to manipulate us for a specific end, whereas Robert has been manipulating us for a solid decade. So that's the smarter plan, I think.
Okay, thanks. My second question is, how do you guys see yourselves, like, in the video game industry?
It's a mirror.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, what do you guys see your role as in the industry? Like, do you just see yourselves as guys who, make JPEGs about video games and people pay attention to them for some reason, or do you think did you actively set out to have a role in the industry?
No. And people say that we do have that, and that's pretty cool, but generally speaking, I mean, we really do want to make comics. Like, we really do want to make comics that communicate to people.